This week on Hip Hop Now podcast, Redman gives us a preview of Muddy Waters 2. Eminem celebrates 15 years of the album The Eminem Show. And Biggie's son is dropping an album. Oh boy.
Let's get right to the business.
Read these headlines. This album must be gone. This album must be gone.
Classic album. Classic album.
Come to Hip Hop Podcast.
What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast, a podcast designed to catch you up on all things hip-hop music and culture that happened throughout the week. Broadcasting right here on SoundCloud.com/Hip Hop Now Podcast and DSR.FM, Death Star Radio. If you don't know, last time, if you're a new listener, definitely, I appreciate you for coming through. You know what it is. You know what I'm saying? If you like what you hear, subscribe, hit that like button, comment. If you have a comment, definitely comment. I need to know what y'all think. And share it with people who enjoy hip-hop in the ways that you do. Why not? That's the best way to spread this thing and keep this thing going, keep you informed. Also, if you are listening on the Death Star Radio app, on the home screen, click that button for the B-Roll Network and you will find my video series along with older episodes of this right here podcast, Hip Hop Now Podcast, B-Roll Network on YouTube. Subscribe to that too. Why not? Just hit that subscribe button all over the place, B. Do it now. Big shout out to Hip Hop DX, where I'm getting some of these stories from. And let's get right into the business because we don't have a lot of time, man. Time is money. You hear what it is, man. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, we got to start this out on a sad note, but we definitely want to recognize, one of the pioneers of this hip-hop game that you don't necessarily hear about. That being former Ghetto Brothers gang leader and subject of the documentary Rumble Kings about New York City gangs in the 1970s. b.i.g. Melendez. He passed away recently. He was famously documented as basically brokering a gang truce between the Bronx and Harlem in 1971. He passed away recently. He was 65 years of age, which is excellent considering, where his life was in the 70s. And if you haven't watched Rumble Kings, you should check it out. It's a documentary that talks about the gang culture in New York City in the 70s, but more importantly, how the truces of as far as the violence led to, instead of them meeting up and battling as far as fighting goes, they begin to battle with dance moves. They begin to battle with raps, and thus hip-hop was born in some ways. And of course, this is not the only route in regards to how hip-hop was born, but everything is affected by what's going on in your neighborhood. That's what hip-hop has always been. That's why you see some dudes get so angry at some of the cats now, because their music doesn't really reflect their environment. It reflects a fantasy world, unfortunately, that record companies will grant by making them rich. But how rich for how long? You feel me? But besides the point, rest in peace, b.i.g. Melendez, a true father of this hip-hop music that we love. Now, let's get on to something else that I'm not too happy to read about, but Christopher Jordan Wallace, if you don't know who that name is, well, that is the son of the notorious b.i.g. Biggie Smalls and his wife at the time, Faith Evans. We know he had the questionable graduation pic, but he's going to release some music. Now, he's 20 years old now. He's 20, which he should be by this time. But we know he did the acting thing, which I thought he was kind of good as an actor, to be honest. When he was younger, he did the acting thing. We know he dabbled in the music thing, but at the age of 20 now, he is ready to actually release an album. And he had this to say about the new release, and I quote, At a young age, I always knew I wanted to do music. It was inevitable. My family always had my back. Whatever I wanted to do, they've supported. They were always giving me advice on what to do and how to go about things. Huh. Now he still does the acting thing because he appeared in a 2016 film entitled Kicks. But the album is actually, it looks like it's coming pretty soon. Well, there's no release date for it currently. How do I feel about this? I don't know, man. Sons, it's the same thing with sports, man. Like my young Michael Jordan, his kids, they're not blowing up the NBA. They're not, doing it like their father. And unfortunately, a lot of people hold these kids of these celebrities, at a certain high standard that can't be met. So the way I see, and I know somebody was like, what about Chris Rivers? What about when Chris Rivers was whack? Remember that? Remember when Chris Rivers a long time ago when he started rapping and he was kind of whack, but he got better. And now he's nice. You know what I'm saying? So I can't say what this is going to sound like, but I know, unfortunately, your name is Christopher Wallace. You damn near look like him, but you don't have the same background. It's going to be hard to fill those shoes. To me, his best option is to go so far in a different direction, but maintain some certain level of skill that people will start to look at him for who he is. Same way Chris Rivers did. Same exact way. Speaking of Chris Rivers, his daddy, Big Pun, as you know, is getting real closer to having a Bronx street named after him, which is pretty dope. We've had, this happen, I believe, for Phife Dawg and a couple of people. So, I mean, we'll see. The only thing I don't like about the street naming is it always feels like it's temporary. Like it's really only like for a year or two or however long. If you grew up in New York City, they change street names like all the time sometimes. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know the science behind that. I don't know how it works, but it happens. So we'll see. But it's pretty dope. Pun, a forgotten MC that dudes just really don't bring up when they talk about lyricism. But go listen to Capital Punishment. Think about a heavy dude who, and he's done this live, who really doesn't take many breaths while he's rhyming. Incredible. And it's not just whack rhymes. It's not just mumbo jumbo. It's actually dope. Nas and Lauryn Hill are going on a North American tour this fall. Everybody knows what the joke is, but I'm going to say it anyway. Nas will probably be touring by himself because Lauryn Hill is notorious for, I won't say not showing up to shows, but sometimes showing up so late, you might as well have stayed at home, Lauryn Hill. But you know what I'm saying? I guess people could be excited for this, but let's be real, man. The miseducation of Lauryn Hill was a dope moment for hip hop, a dope moment in music, but that's all she got. I've heard newer music. Sure, I don't expect it to be on that level, but it's not always great. I've heard some stuff that was good, but it's not always great, and I think it has a lot to do with just, her commitment to it. What Dave Chappelle did, Lauryn Hill kind of did that a while back, but Dave Chappelle never lost who Dave Chappelle was, and I think that was part of the reason why he stepped away from that. Whereas Lauryn Hill kind of got wrapped up in her life so much that it seeped into her music to the point where it wasn't engaging for the audience. It kind of became something where people are, you're standing on the outside of the conversation that she's having with herself. I'm saying. It's been 15 years since Eminem's third album, The Eminem Show. Some would say, arguably, his best. Came out in, what year did this come out? I believe 2002. Well, it says this is Eminem's fourth album. I thought this was his third album, right? All right, let's see. The Slim Shady LP, the Marshall Mathers LP. Wasn't it the Eminem Show? I don't count that first one. That nobody counts that one. I mean, I guess I should because I do it for Kendrick. I do it for 50. But who cares? Let's just move on. It's been 15 years, and we know it was inspired by the Truman Show. If you go to his Instagram, there's a anniversary collection with a link for early access of what's going to come with this whole situation. Um, I really like. Oh, all right. Here it came out on May 26, 2002, and what's being offered up is for the anniversary is the Eminem Show anniversary capsule. I don't know what that is. The Eminem Show to me was Eminem peaking in his career. Now we know he kind of fell after that with that follow up. I forget the name of it, Encore or something like that. That was complete garbage. And then he kind of slowly came back with his last albums. But the Eminem Show is a pretty dope album for a number of reasons. It's it's the first time that, to me, Eminem found a way to take Marshall Mathers and Slim Shady and blend it kind of perfectly. Now, he still had some goofy stuff on there. Don't get me wrong. He still kind of destroyed cannabis on a certain record. But records like White America, Cleaning Out My Closet, those are some pretty dope and personal records. And they're records that I like to point to when people who don't like Eminem, and not saying that you have to, but their argument is that they can't relate because he's killing his moms and kidnapping his baby mother, where that is just kind of more like entertainment, like watching a movie like American Psycho or whatever. I love that movie, but I wouldn't do it. And I don't think Eminem would do it. But on this album, he kind of addresses some of that, you know what I'm saying, from a personal standpoint. And we know that Stan is the standard bearer for his career besides other records, as far as him making a true impact from a personal level. But this album was dope, and it was very personal. And, I like to point to this album sometimes when people want to know, like, okay, well, how is he one of the best when it's just about this, that, and the third? Like, I'll tell you this, and this goes for even newer rappers when you listen to them. Never listen to whatever the single is and try to say that's who the artist is. Never define the artist by the single, because in a number of cases, the single is meant to do what it does, and that's be catchy and get spins and get people to buy it. And unfortunately, it's been a long time since introspective type conscious records are, sometimes they creep through, but are the singles and the reasons why we buy it. And I think the Eminem Show, not to me one of the greatest albums, because when you start saying greatest, then you really got to break them down. But I think it was a pretty dope album that anybody could enjoy, even people who don't initially like Eminem, and you can't deny some of the records. The good outweighs the bad on that album, big time. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, Razkaz has a rap recap of Game of Thrones that I didn't listen to, not because I didn't want to. Let's see if we get a quick snippet. I don't know what exactly. We know he did a album called Soul on Ice. Let's see if we can hit this play button real quick. Don't come for me. Nope, that's. Come on, man. Just get to the. Oh, wow. That's kind of pretty dope. It's a recap, but he's really telling you the story. If no spoilers, sorry, it's too late. But he's real telling you, what's going on and where things left off from the small snippet that I could catch. But what do y'all think? Do you care? Is this something dope? I don't know. Speaking of old school artists who have something new out, Cool G Rap recently released Return of the Don, which is produced entirely by Moss and features people like Raekwon, the late Sean Price, Westside Gunn and Conway, Noriega, King Crooked, a couple of people. You know what I'm saying? I definitely think y'all should check that out. I haven't had the opportunity to listen to it myself, but I will say that I am looking forward to it. I'm a big fan of Cool G Rap since back in the day. You can check out my podcast from last week about 1992, where one of Cool G Rap albums is mentioned among the dope albums that came out that year. That album being Live Long and Die Long and Prosper. I forget, man. Sorry, man. I don't have my notes in front of me. Let Live and Let Die. Something like that. Something like that. Speaking of old podcasts, but I did, again, if you're using the Death Star Radio app and you click on the B-Road Network, you'll see my YouTube series, One to Flow On. And recently, I did a episode on rappers going from being the activist who's against drugs to being the drug dealer to being the junkie. And Floyd Mayweather said this, and maybe here on my podcast, who knows, but said this in a chat with DJ Who Kid. These new rappers have made it okay to be a junkie. Hey, I completely agree. If you want my thoughts on it, B-Roll Network on, that's B, the letter B, ROLE Network on YouTube. It's the series One to Flow On. I talk about it in depth, but I completely agree because, yeah, man, it's cool to be the junkie to them. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. Speaking of classic albums, even though I didn't mention any, Muddy Waters 2 by Redman is being worked on, and honestly, I will say I'm getting a little tired of, like Only Built for Cuban Links 2 was dope. It was everything I wanted, but there hasn't been a part 2, unless I can't remember, that's happened that I really like. Now, there's been a ton that I've anticipated, like Supreme Clientele Part 2, which we haven't seen, Do or Die Part 2, which has been coming out for like 3 years, and Muddy Waters 2. Muddy Waters being, in my opinion, Redman's best album. Well, he reached out to Ninth Wonder for some production, and Ninth Wonder is going to hook him up, which is pretty dope. Let's see. Here's a video of Redman on Instagram, where else, giving a preview. Let's see if we can hit Plizze on that and get some audio going.
All-nighters, work. Stay real. Yeah. Pay bills. I'll be a pusher man. Just call me Curtis Mayfield. I draw like Picasso. Post up like Rondo. I made it. I'm like Mitch Green.
He's shaking the camera like a psycho, so I think I'm about to have a seizure watching that. Couldn't really hear the beat, so I can't even tell you if it sounds hot. Redman is hyped, and it's pretty dope to see him hyped, but at the same time, somebody put out your part 2 already. Here's another video. Let's see if we can hit play on that real quick. It's a dude with a guitar. Let's see. We are now working on Superman Lover 8. Damn, there's been 8 of them? We can't let you hear the beat. Man, I love Redman. He's just funny, man. But who knows, man? I didn't know that 8 Superman lovers. I didn't realize that. If you young and you don't know, or you're not a Redman fan, you don't know what the Superman lover is, especially a reason for them to have 8 of them. It's basically a series of stories similar to what EPMD used to do with the Jane series. But this being about, I guess you can call it a ghetto Superman who's played by Redman. And it's his adventures with the ladies. And the series is pretty dope, but honestly, I think I only remember 4 of them. Because let me just say this about Redman And when Redman came out, I was a fan. I was a huge fan of Redman when he came out. And after Muddy Waters, I felt like it was all downhill. Now, I will say in recent years, he's released some pretty dope stuff. But for me, with Redman, it's like for me with Snoop. Snoop is at his best when it's him and Dr. Dre. That's when he's at his best every time. With Redman, he's at his best when it's Eric Sermon and it's them funk beats. And I think once he stopped moving away from that sound, I just wasn't feeling anything that was coming out. Of course, there's songs here and there, and the dude is still nice. Don't get it twisted. But I mean, I need that. So he's working with Knife Wonder. I'm pretty sure Knife Wonder will give us some heat. But at the end of the day, we just need to see what is what. Just for I guess you could call it. I'm just not gonna read this story. Okay, I'm gonna read it. Lil Yachty is being accused of stealing his record Peekaboo, lifted from a dude called Memphis Ash, who had a song called Pikachu. Wow. Let's move on. Whack begets whack. The word "stan" from Eminem's song "Stan" has been in the dictionary for a pretty long time, thanks to Eminem and an Oxford intern. And it is described as such: an overzealous or obsessive fan of a particular celebrity. Look, man, I've said this in the past. If you are an MC or just a rap recording artist that's had an album, and this would be the last topic I cover, but has had an album, a song, or whatever, and that the title of that song or the hook or whatever it may be, whatever the word is that you've coined, when it becomes a part of slang, even to this point where it ends up in the dictionary, you are someone special. I say this all the time to kind of put the brakes on those who reemerge from the bowels of hip hop and say, Jay-Z really won that battle with Nas. I remember. Nah, B. No, he did not. Okay? He didn't. He admits it. Everybody knows. Everybody has moved on but you. But to the point of this story, when Ether, let's just say that, I don't even want to say you, when Ether has become a part of hip-hop slang, Ether already has his own meaning, okay? Just like Stan, that's somebody's name. You know what I'm saying? They already have its own meaning. But in the realm of hip-hop, anytime you say Ether, I'm about to ether this sandwich. I don't know if anybody talks like that, but you know what I'm talking about. Everybody in hip-hop already knows what that means. You're going to destroy whatever it is. So, when you say that, why does it mean that? Because when Ether came out, that's what everybody felt. It destroyed Jay-Z. It did. It took a piece of his soul. It took him a long time to put together raps after that were actually good rebuttals, but it was already too late. Nobody cared anymore. But that's the thing. You know, when a word like that kind of becomes a part of the culture, you know, that's a true statement about not only the artist, but the impact of the song and what the song did to the word and the impact on people, you know, to make them just use this word. And that's how it is with Stan. Stan was such a dope record for Eminem, and this was off the Marshall Mathers LP. It was such a dope record for Eminem, and it was a look that you hadn't seen, and it was a single from Eminem that hadn't been, you know, before that, we know the only singles they put out from Eminem was the goofy ones. But this was a song that was like, damn, I think I know Eminem now. You know what I'm saying? And he told a dope story about a fan who was overzealous and followed his career, and how Eminem does appreciate his fans, but how some fans can go too far. I mean, it's a classic in hip hop, and there's a reason why. Because what did people start calling anybody who they felt was overzealous? A stan. And I've seen it be outside of hip hop being used. I've seen in forums where dudes is arguing over Xbox and PlayStation or Android and iOS, and calling them Apple stands. Now we know they also refer to them as sheeple, which is pretty dope. But I've seen people refer to others as stands, meaning you're not objective at all. You just love this person. There's nothing that could happen. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing that they can do to change your mind to make you feel like, yo, LeBron is the greatest of all time. And then if you be like, yeah, he going bald though, which is petty, but he going bald though, you'd be like, so what? He's not going bald. What are you talking about? He still has hair up there. It's just faded, like somebody hit the filter on the wrong way in the front area. Man, cut that shit. Whatever. I'm digressing. But just to think about words in hip hop and impact, and to have something like that in the dictionary, that's a big deal. The fact that people from a rap record, and again, I can't say that's the only word that's in there, because the more we go along and hip hop gets older and older, you're gonna have these cases, because hip hop is a big part of culture. And for all you younger cats who love to throw the term old head around, we run this now for the most part. You know what I'm saying? When I say, and of course you'll have your time, because that's how the Generation X is in a position now to influence pop culture. That's why you see it in Star Wars and Marvel and Transformers and G.I. Joe and all that. All of that stuff is from our childhood. That's why it's front and center. So, you know what I'm saying? Now hip hop is old enough where, you can have a Tribe Called Quest come out and it seems like it's the greatest thing in the world. Why? Because Generation X is sitting in boardrooms and on Saturday Night Live and all that, and they're the ones that be like, yo, Tribe Called Quest is coming out with a new album, whatever. Black Enterprise needs to review it, whatever, you know what I'm saying? But who knows, man? What are some of your favorite terms in hip hop that were coined by rappers that maybe you use to this day? I know I use stan. I can't say I use ether. I remember when people used to say things were illmatic and stuff like that. Some of those I never used, but I'm pretty sure there's certain terms. And please don't say YOLO, because that existed before he said it, but he popularized it, so I get it. All right, peace. That's going to do it for me for this week. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, or Snapchat, or all three, at Vegas World INC. If you like Facebook, facebook.com/hip hop right now is where you can go. Hit the like button. Keep up to date with different videos and this podcast, which will be posted there, along with the B-Road Network on YouTube. Subscribe to this podcast. Comment. Hit that like button and share it with people who enjoy hip-hop the way you do. I'm Vegas for DSR.FM, Death Star Radio, SoundCloud.com/Hip Hop Now Podcast. Until next week, y'all, I am not a critic. I'm a fan. Peace. I'm not going to buy Smiggy Smalls' album until I hear it. This is a Biggie fan. Peace. Drop it on the random.